Do you know the history of your roast dinner? A festive break read for WEU members. The Great English Roast Dinner feels like it has existed forever, but it is really a patchwork of traditions, imports, class quirks, and whatever our people could grow without going hungry. The roast dinner itself emerged in medieval households that were wealthy enough to keep a spit turning, usually thanks to the labor of servants working long hours in blistering heat. By the 18th and 19th centuries, as industrial workers gained a precious half-day on Sundays, families began roasting meat after church, turning it into a well-earned weekly ritual. Over time, the Sunday roast became both comfort food and a national identity, and the Christmas plate became its most extravagant form, vegetables and traditions. But the vegetables and extras on your festive plate each have their own little histories. Potatoes arrived from the Andes in the late 1500s and were initially viewed with deep suspicion as they were too odd and occasionally poisonous, thanks to early planting mishaps. However, by the 18th century, they had become indispensable because they were cheap, filling and perfect for roasting in hot fat. Victorians turned the humble spud into the crunch-covered roasty we now consider non-negotiable. Carrots started life in Europe and Asia in all colors, except the now familiar orange, which Dutch growers developed in the 17th century. England embraced them because they thrive in cold soils, store well through winter, and add a welcome sweetness to the roast plate. Before potatoes took over, parsnips were a medieval favorite. Brought here by the Romans, they grow happily in soggy English fields, and their sweetness intensifies when roasted. This makes them an ideal partner to gravy and meat. Brussels sprouts have medieval origins, but exploded in popularity in the 16th century Belgium. They became affordable in England during the 1800s as farming methods improved. Their slightly bitter tang still divides the nation, but roasting and a bit of butter can work minor miracles. Peas were a working-class staple long before they became the bright green burst on today's plate. Medieval diets relied heavily on dried peas for protein. The arrival of frozen food in the mid-20th century turned peas into an easy, all-year addition to the roast. Cauliflower reached Britain in the 1500s, but didn't go mainstream until the 19th century. Cauliflower cheese began as Victorian thrift vegetable, padded out with sauce and a bit of cheese, but its comforting richness made it a firm Sunday favorite. Pigs in blankets are a relatively modern festive luxury. Variations existed for centuries, but the bacon-wrapped sausage rose to fame after rationing ended and indulgence returned to the table. By the 1990s, they were cemented as a Christmas essential. Yorkshire puddings were originally dripping puddings and were invented in the 1700s to fill people up before the expensive meat was carved. What began as practical carb loading is now a national treasure that refuses to stay in Yorkshire. Enjoy the history on your plate, so as you tuck into your roast this Christmas, remember, you're not just eating dinner, you are eating centuries of culinary history served with gravy. Enjoy